All right. I think it's time to get started. Welcome, everyone. This is Evelyn from GOGLA. I'm the Outreach and Impact Officer or Manager at GOGLA. And you have kindly joined us for an introduction and explanation of our Global Off-Grid Solar Market Data Collection, which GOGLA does together with our partners IFC Lighting Global and the Efficiency for Access Coalition. Joining me in hosting this webinar are Leo Blaith, representing the Efficiency for Access Coalition. Maybe Leo, if you can briefly unmute yourself and intro, say a few lines about yourself.
Hello everyone, hope you can hear me clearly here. Yes, so it's a pleasure to be introducing the webinar to those of you who are new to the process, either new to the companies or new companies to us. I work with both the Lighting Global program and the Efficiency for Access, and my colleague Salman is representing the Lighting Global program on the call. Look forward to working with you on the data collection, and please do let us know any questions you have as you go through. Thank you.
Thanks, and as you already rightly mentioned, we also have Salman with us, Salman Zahir, who's representing IFC Lighting Global. Salman, do you also want to say hi?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Belated New Year wishes. I'm part of the Business Development Services team working for the World Bank Group's Lighting Global program. And yeah, I'll be speaking shortly again. So welcome everyone to the webinar.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so Salman will indeed kick off the content of the presentation with sharing a little bit about the background of the data collection, followed by Leo highlighting why it's so important and valuable for you to participate. And after that, I will dive into the details, really into the details on how you can participate, showing kind of like step by step how the online platform works that we are using. So these slides will be available as a how-to guide, as well as the recording, so you can always refer back to that. And in addition, we will have some time to answer questions at the end, or yeah, I think at the end will be most logical. I'll monitor the question box as well, so which is in the console at the right-hand side of the screen throughout the sessions. If like a question pops up that we can easily answer on the spot, I will make sure that we will address that. I think with that, we can get started with the intro. Salman, it is all yours.
Thank you, Evelyn. And hello, everyone again. So, yep, as Evelyn had said, our presentation today is basically divided into three portions, with the introduction on the global off-grid solar market data collection that I'll cover. Followed by the benefits of participation covered by Leo. And of course, the chunk of the presentation would focus on a step-by-step guide from Evelyn on the data submission itself. And we'll cover with a, we'll follow through with a Q&A session. And of course, for any portion of the presentation, I'll strongly encourage everyone to post questions regarding any of the material that we cover. To kind of maintain the flow, everyone has been put on mute, so do make use of the chat box on the right that Evelyn had mentioned. Right. So we do hope that for the new companies who have joined in today's webinar, or returning companies who may have come for a refresher or may have new people for data submission, would leave with a solid understanding on the data collection process and how to participate by the end of the hour. So the data collection exercise, of course, started quite a few years back. And it started with capturing data on lighting segment only, but has now expanded to capture sales information of selective appliances as well. It's led by GOGLA and supported by the Lighting Global program and Energy for Access Coalition. And the data collection has matured into one of the most detailed sources of sales and impact data in the industry that is available. The data collected from manufacturers and distributors of off-grid lighting devices and appliances has become incredibly valuable for donors of off-grid electrification projects and investors alike to understand the key trends and the social impact from off-grid devices and interventions done. Simultaneously, this data is equally valuable for the companies that are reporting, such as yourselves, because participating in the data report, of course, has the overall public report that analyzes the key trends in the different markets, but companies that are participating also gets customized access to market trends that they can use to inform their business decisions around the world. Data confidentiality, of course, is a top priority for all of us, and only collective data points are used to build the overall market scenario in the public report. So you can participate in the data collection with the full assurance that your data's confidentiality is maintained at all steps. The data collection, of course, in terms of the frequency, it's collected biannually from solar product manufacturers and, of course, and distributors. And since last half of 2018, also from the companies selling off-grid appliances under the LEIA program, which stands for the Low Energy Inclusive Appliances Program. So we are happy to say that the participation from companies is increasing, and in the last round we had participation of 93 companies, so an increase from the 84 companies in the round before that. And of course, we are seeing more and more companies who are selling both off-grid solar lighting devices and appliances, which kind of also justifies having a collecting the data during the same round and together. Finally, just to kind of go over the scope of the data collection, the data is collected for off-grid solar lighting products. So this would be systems that include a solar panel, a battery, and at least one light point. This means, of course, that products which are sold just as components, for example, individual panels or batteries, individual lights, or mobile phone chargers, these would not be included. And the second portion, the second segment of data that is collected is the off-grid solar appliances. So this would be energy efficient electrical appliances that are used in off-grid or weak grid areas. Of course, the focus is on TVs, fans, refrigeration units, and solar water pumps. And these would be systems that are used in households or in the micro enterprise level. During the data submission, you will see that there are separate tabs for the lighting and the appliances. And for any company that sells both appliances and lighting, you'll have to click on the separate tabs and fill out the details in each. So for appliances, there would be a separate tab, and for lighting, there would be a separate tab, and you would have to fill both out. So that's a short introduction to the data collection. And of course, I'd again encourage everyone, especially the new companies, to go through the market trends report in the GOGLA website, the public reports, to understand in more depth about the data collection and the report, the resulting reports. Yeah, and with that, I'd request Leo to kind of shed some light on the details of why you should participate in the data collection. Leo.
Thank you. Great, everyone. So now you're more familiar with the overall approach to this. Just wanted to really emphasize that when you do share your data with us, then what we're basically treating you as a partner. And in return for you sharing your data with us confidentially, then you get the whole data shared back with you, segmenting your market share. And that really is the most valuable part of this process that we find for individual companies. So by sharing with us, we take your data, we aggregate it with everybody else's, and as a result, then we share non-confidential data with the public. But for yourselves, we give you access to a data platform that actually gives you an ability to see where this data is personalized, and it will literally show you your share next to all the different segments across everything that you've shared with us. So just really wanted to emphasize that for you as what we see as the main assistance for you to see your relative share in the market. What you can also then, of course, see is that you can then measure the products over the historical years where we've been carrying this process on over time. Even if you haven't sold your products in the past, at least you can then see what products have been sold in the past there. And I think this is a good point to also mention about the impacts. So for those of you who are new, we also calculate the impacts of off-grid solar products in terms of how many people have been reached using the the multi-tier framework for measuring energy access. And therefore you can reference our data to give a rough indication of the estimated number of people who've been delivered a certain level of energy access thanks to sales of your product. And then in general, I've mentioned some of those more indirect values, and I think Salman covered those quite well, that we have a general awareness for the off-grid sector being increased around the world as we shared this report. That will, of course, benefit us as a sector and all your business. And again, it just gives more credibility to the impact measurement of the off-grid sector. Great, well, that's the main point for you as individuals. If you could move us ahead, I'd be very grateful. Thank you. And just a quick point here, just to share now with you, what are the global highlights? So these are the information that we aggregated from the last round of data. And so during that 6-month period, you can see the values on the left, where we noticed that for the first ever time pay-as-you-go products reached 1 million of over 4 million off-grid solar lighting product sales. The remaining 3 million being sold as cash. And then what you'll see when you go into that report, which is, we just encourage you to do so if you haven't seen already, is how we segment the different categories of off-grid solar lighting products between solar lanterns, multi-light systems, solar home systems. And then we all, thank you, Evelyn, and then we can move on. And then you can see in the same way, and yes, on this slide, you can see how we also show the overall trends for off-grid solar appliances. And here, what we generally are focusing on, you can see the appliances at the bottom there, TVs, fans, refrigerators, and solar water pumps. We give an aggregate for each type of appliance. Then at the top figure, you'll see we give a total for all of the appliances sold, and again, split it between cash and pay-go. And when you go into each of those categories, then because you share your, this is what emphasizes the importance of sharing small data points with us, we can then see how many different size televisions, fans, refrigerators are sold, and we will segment the data as granularly as we have it when a minimum of 3 companies report data for any one point. So that gives you a good overview there. We are still growing on the appliance side, and that's why we feel it's particularly important for us to get those data points from you. Thank you. We can move ahead. I just wanted to give a little testament here. One of the companies that's been reporting sales data since the very beginning is D-Light, which has been using this data over the years, both to share with investors, to encourage them to believe in the credibility of the market, as well as being very confident in the confidentiality that they've established with us. So we encourage you all just to follow in that same vein of making use of the data and being comfortable to share with us data confidentially. So do let us know if there are any questions you may have and any more assurances you would like to get on that last point. Thank you. We can move ahead. So now there's an online platform, and what we're talking about here is when you have submitted data, you will then be able to see this data yourself on this online results viewing platform. This has been in existence for a few years, but we've recently invested, we're in the process of investing very heavily, thanks to donor support, to improve this platform. And what you'll see in there are that you can benchmark your products against everything from different regions in the world, product categories. It gives you the chance to actually look at data and see it in the way that you would like. And of course, also the historical data for the lighting. We've only just begun the appliance sales 1 year ago, so we're just closing now with this round. We will be closing that first period, and so we don't have historical data yet there. At the same time, you can also download visual infographics and such about the data, I should say graphs, and look into the impact calculations for lighting products. As I say, this will be improved over the coming months, and we'll be moving into a dedicated session to discuss this at the upcoming Solar Forum in February, I think, which we will just plug for you later on the session, just to make sure you're aware of that, everyone. And then we'll also have an instructional webinar in April to discuss this platform and talk you through it. Okay, and then I think I just want to close my section with noting there's some more details to the public report for you. I mentioned this earlier, but for those of you not familiar, we do produce this public report every 6 months. This is what the world gets to see of your data, aggregated data, and we only produce this for manufacturer data, not distributors, to avoid double counting. And we also make sure that every data point shared must be reported by at least 3 different manufacturers. And therefore, that would mean that if there are different size televisions reported in a country and only 2 companies report one size of television, one company reports another size, then we do not share any sizes of television data. We just would say one figure for all televisions sold in that country. So if that makes sense, that's a very straightforward way of how we protect confidentiality. And you'll see that we present this data in 3 different categories: sales of solar lighting kits, actually then followed by the sales of energy efficient appliances. And at the end, we give impact metrics, but only for the lighting kits. And we're actually just starting the development of impact metrics, which will be the industry's first harmonized way of measuring impact of selling of the off-grid lighting, off-grid appliance products being used. There is currently no universally agreed impact metrics. We'll be developing those under the Efficiency Factors Coalition and GOGLA over the coming year. So if any of you are interested in that, there'll be opportunities to join the group that feeds into that. With that, I hope we've given you a good background and encouraged you to go through the effort to share the data with us. And I hand over to Evelyn to take us through these next steps.
Thanks so much, Leo. Yeah, you see here, you see a timeline for the upcoming months. As GOGLA is the one kind of like managing the data collection, you will be hearing from me quite frequently in this upcoming period. But just to kind of like share some more details on the timeline overview of this upcoming half year. So after this webinar has ended, you will first be shared the proceedings, and then on the day that the data collection opens, which will be next week, Monday the 13th, you will receive an email with information on the data sharing agreement, as well as instructions on how to start filling in the questionnaire. In the DSA, you will find kind of like the regulations on how the data is handled and shared at GOGLA, as well as at the partners involved. So just that you are very aware, and very also, I guess it's all very clear on how we are safeguarding confidentiality, and we will be informing you through this data sharing agreement on for what purposes your data will be used. Filling in the questionnaire as soon as possible will be extremely helpful, as between the partners and ourselves, we are spending quite some time with following up with you, with those that have not yet either started the questionnaire or who haven't finalized the questionnaire yet. And this is something that we can monitor from the backend, so we kind of see if someone hasn't opened anything yet, and you will be receiving reminders from me to please do so. So basically, if you fill it in as soon as possible, you will avoid me or someone or Leo kind of like filling your inbox with reminder emails. So the questionnaire will be open for 2 weeks, and then once the data collection closes, we will go through a round of quality control. And during this period, we might contact you to check if there is something, if there is something unclear about the data that you shared with us. We can get back to you and say, is this correct? Might this be a typo? Just to make sure that we are working with the right data. And once that is done, you will receive a notification once the data is ready, and you can check out your results. And this will be by that time we will already be in April. So it's quite a significant time. We'll be receiving a lot of data, and it will take quite some time to make sure that everything is of high quality. So right now we have, I think, over 100, well, way more than 100 companies involved between lighting and companies and appliances companies. So we really do value each one of them, and we want to make sure that we have enough time to allocate support to each and every one of you. Again, if any questions come to mind, or if you have any problems during during filling in the questionnaire, do not hesitate to reach out to me. If you're, or even if you're wondering what the next steps are, or if there's, if you are thinking about this, then another company is probably also wondering the same thing. And the aim, of course, of the session is to make sure that everything is clear as possible before we start the collection exercise. All right, then let's dive into how to report and use the platform. And this will be quite a detailed exercise on showing on how to go through all the different steps to fill in your data. So the platform has been developed by GOGLA and Lighting Global and has been used for the previous few rounds to also gather sales data now for the Efficiency for Access Coalition. So in general, the flow of the whole process can be divided into the following steps. When the round starts, we send you an email, and with that email contains your login details. So you ensure that you have your login details and that you log into the platform on this link here. Then if you are a new company to the exercise, you will have to answer some general information questions on the company and on your products and on the regions that you're active. And then we basically come to the meaty part where you will have to share all the different products and specifications of which you will report sales, and of course, most importantly, enter those actual sales numbers. Then in the end, quite a crucial step, you should not forget to press the submit button to make sure everything ends up in our database. So we'll go through all these steps in more detail. You or your colleague will have received that email with the login information to gain access to the platform, and you will have logged in. So if your company has never participated before, you will actually receive that one-time login link that you can use to set your password and log in the future. If your company has participated before, but you might be new in being the responsible person to fill out the data, your company can either create you a new account, or you can contact me and you get that one-time login link. Or if you are experiencing problems, you can always you know where to find me. So once you're logged in, you will see the starting screen with the H2 2019 section on top. So in the text below here, there is a link that brings you to the DSA, to the data sharing agreement, and some information on what is new this round. On the side of the screen here, you see, below tools, you see several tools. There is a frequently asked question and a help desk as well. So feel free to use that at any point in time when you're filling in, when you have any questions. It can also be the case, and I think that's important, that you are filling this in together with a colleague. And in that case, it's important to know that it's not possible for two people to be logged into or to be working on the questionnaire at the same time, because we want to avoid that conflicting data or conflicting information or conflicting copies are created. So while one company can have multiple accounts for multiple users, you cannot work on the questionnaire at the same time. So if you are filling in one part of the data, of one part of the questionnaire, and your colleague will fill out something else, please be sure to log out, and then your colleague can log in and continue the work. It's quite important to keep that in mind. It's one of the main causes of I think of problems that people run into. Okay, so again, the bulk of the effort for new companies that join for their first reporting round is that you have to fill in most of the general information. Returning participants will see that there's already a part that's filled out for them. So it's preloaded. So I'll show you through the questionnaire with this presentation, and I'll basically, make sure that you understand each step. So these general questions are marked with an asterisk, are the ones that are mandatory. And you will need to have these completed before you can move on to another section. So here in the top, once you're logged in, this is what you will see. Here in the top, you will see the different sections. Intro just gives like some basic information, which will be the same as what I'm sharing with you now and what you will find in the handout and in these slides. But then you start at general questions, and there, as a first-time participant, you have to fill in those details. We do try to minimize the number of mandatory questions which require you to answer, to really make it as easy as possible. However, also, we want to kindly ask you to pay attention to the non-mandatory questions, because those are especially important for the lighting side, for impact metrics and impact information, and also perhaps even more important on the appliances side, where we are still really gathering a lot of knowledge in these past rounds, and for us to get to know the sector better and better, and also to kind of know how know the different specifications of the appliances. So your responses on the non-mandatory questions will really be hugely appreciated. Then on company details, here it's important that this is basically when you scroll down on that same page, this is what will appear. This is still the general tab. So here it's important that you select carefully if you sell lighting products, if you sell appliances, or if you sell both. And so kind of like for the sake of having both represented in this webinar, I'm choosing both, and we will go through both steps. If you only select, for example, appliances here, and I will go one slide back, this tab will not be available. So you will only be filling in appliances. But if you say that you fill in both tabs will be active, and you will have to fill in both sections. So we continue first here with lighting, as you see. We start off with asking you about your product. So we do this data collection on a product level, which is really the most granular level, so that we can properly aggregate between all companies in the different categories. So here we ask you to list all of your products by pushing on add lighting product here. And you see that. So once you add, or once you click here, a new line will appear. You can name the product, or you can give, you just write down the name of the product, and then make sure you add every product on a new line. Please don't combine products on the same line. In the lighting part, it's all about lanterns and lighting kits, so please add them all separately. If your company participated before, there will be product info preloaded here. So if you already participated in last round, or if you will participate again next round, you will see that if you filled in or if you wrote down 2 products here, those 2 products will already be shown. Then in addition, you see to the side, you see here 2 columns. We will ask you some questions on if you sold this product in this half year. And we also ask you if you sold it on a B2B or a B2C level. So if I think, the moment if you're filling it out for the first time, this will of course be yes. But if you return, for example, for the next round, and there is, this product test 2, you sold it in the last round, but you don't sell it anymore now, you have to change it here. Then, when looking at the B2B and B2C distinction, a product is B2B when it's not sold directly to a customer, but rather to a distributor or a government or an NGO or any other bulk purchaser. And then B2C sales are those that are done directly to the customer. Let me see. On the appliances tab that then follows, these same questions appear. So for example, if you sell fans and you sell, if you sell one type of fan, and if you sell two types of refrigerators, sorry, you basically have to have 3 product lines where you add them all separately. You all have the same question: did you sell this product in H2 2019? And did you sell it B2B or B2C? The next important question that comes around is question number 8. You keep scrolling down on that same level. I can actually show you very briefly what it looks like on the platform itself. Let me quickly switch to the platform live. So here we are actually on the data platform. I'm logged in as a company called Evelyn. You see here I've ticked both lighting and appliances products. I'm giving a description here. I'm saying I've sold this product. I'm selling this one appliances product. There's 2 more questions that are looking at the total number of employees that are currently working for your company and commission-based agents. And then below here, this is the important one, comes in which regions do you sell your products? And that's the last question of this general section. Now, back to the presentation. So because we gather sales on the product level, we also not only do we gather the sales on a product level, we also gather them on a country level. So we ask you to select all the countries that you have sales in. You first will need to select the broader region here. And then once you select the region, a drop-down will appear, and then you will need to select all the countries that you make a sale in. So again, you need to fill all of this in before we can move on to the next section. Question 8 is also mandatory, but you can always, just to know, you can always go back and change or add new products as you move forward. Now, that marks the end of section 2, the general questions. And because I have clicked that I sell both lighting and appliances products, I see both these sections as active. So I see those 2 tabs, and I need to fill them in both. Now I had a test 1 and a test 2 for the lighting products, and they're shown here. So you need to actually click on this little arrow button for a drop down. Let me quickly show it on the platform. So you need to click on that product to get a drop down to open the product specification questions. So I'll do that here. And then you see you get a lot of additional questions down here. Basically, the questions that are asked are the following. There's again several mandatory questions, and there's several non-mandatory questions. These questions that you see here, they're mandatory because they're used for classifications, and they will allow us to report on how many small lighting products or big lighting products of a certain type of appliances or of lighting are sold, and it enables us to segment the market in a meaningful and standardized way. So the non-mandatory questions, and especially, as I already mentioned, on the lighting product side, they will help us calculate and compute impact metrics. So if you don't fill those in, we won't be able to share those with you. And for appliances, and then while we don't have impact metrics yet, as LEIA also said, the development on this is actually starting this half year. So it's starting this month already. It has started, and they're upcoming. So we really appreciate all the information that you can share with us. Going briefly through these lighting product questions. So this is a list of all the mandatory questions that are required for the submission. And there's the non-mandatory questions. So you can use this list, and you can use this handout to maybe prepare and collect the information already ahead of the data collection, which will make filling in the questionnaire a bit more, I think, streamlined. But it's of course not necessary. For lighting products, we're required to know whether this is a quality verified product within these past 6 months, according to Lighting Global quality standards. So this is to provide information to the Lighting Global programs, just exactly how many of the products that are sold in country are verified or not. We also would like to know the number of light points that are included, the number of outlets, so basically meaning that you can plug in an external device such as a mobile charger or a radio or a TV or something. Then there's 2 questions on which appliances the product is capable of powering. But they are regarding the lighting kit. Please keep that in mind. It might be a little bit confusing, but we're reporting lighting kits, and some of those are able to power appliances. So if the lighting kit is able to power appliances, we want to know which ones it has capacity to power, without going into specification of what that actually means, and without it having to be included in the package. I think that's also important. The next question is then which appliances are included in the kit, and we would also like to know the panel wattage. So currently we don't have a segmentation between Paygo and cash. No, we do have a segmentation between Paygo and cash products. If a product is sold via both ways, we will ask you to please choose the one that is predominant. The definitions that you see here have been decided in extensive consultations with companies in the previous years. The same is applied for companies. So you will have to basically select if you have sold this particular product, either Paygo, if it's paid in installments, in multiple installments, or if it's paid in cash in 1 installment. Then there's some non-mandatory questions that are about the warranty, the runtime of the solar products, and the lumens. So this will help us compute how many more available hours of light are given to the customer. There are some important questions for lighting about the kits itself. Then we want to know how many lights are included in the package, and we ask some information about the pricing. Now, this is of course sensitive information, but please note, so this is, while this is non-mandatory, it's used only to estimate the market value, which is why we call it a free onboard price, and it's to be reported in US dollars. And in this case, we also specify the Unity minimum order point. So yeah, just stressing one more time, everything you share with us is handled with extreme confidentiality. We will never share anything in the form and how you share it with us. But it's important for us to have the market value of such products. And we will also use this, and you can benchmark your company also in terms of market value on the results platform. Then moving on to the appliances, again, you will see that I filled in one product, which is called test 3, in the general questions tab. It shows up here, and you can click this tab. It's red because that means that not all mandatory questions are filled in. You will click on it, and then the drop-down menu appears. I will show you again on the platform. So I'm going to the product-specific appliances. I'm showing you here. So this, once I click it, all of this appears, and you will be able to fill in all these details. Again, some are mandatory questions, and some are non-mandatory questions. When you finish out, oh, I just scrolled past that. When you finish filling out the question for one product, as I've done for my, for my own example, this will actually appear. So instead of red, it will become gray again, and you will have a check mark next to the product name. So that's a sign that, it shows that you have answered all the mandatory questions. So one of the first questions that you will see for the appliances products is that you have to select which type of appliance we're actually talking about. So whether it's a fan, a TV, a refrigeration unit, a solar water pump, or another appliance. So what you choose here is important, because the following questions will actually change depending on which category the product is part of. There's of course, questions specific to fridges that are not applicable for fans at all. You will be asked as well whether the appliance is DC or AC, and there's an open question that you're not required to answer, but you can add a brief description of what's included in your kit, like a cable to power it. You're welcome to include anything. Then we would like to know the rated power consumption of the appliance, and we ask you to, we say here, branding of the appliance, but what we mean is that we ask you to define if you are a manufacturer or distributor, and this is basically based on the branding of the appliance. So the question here is really like, is this my own brand or is this someone else's brand? And we will ask this question on each product, at the product level, because we are aware that there are some companies that manufacture some products, but then they distribute other products as well. So you will be able to fill in the brand of appliance if you want to. And then there are some, then we have the pay-go and cash section again. And then there are some appliance specific questions, like product type and specific parameters that are listed here. The non-mandatory questions shown here are whether this appliance can be powered with other companies' panels or systems. So is it compatible with another system? What's included in the kit? What's the minimal panel size required to power it? Again, some pricing information, including a breakdown in percentage between the balance of the system and the appliance itself, and some appliance specific, some more appliance specific questions. Of course, when you change type of appliance, at the top of the product specification, the questions, the subsequent questions that are asked for that product differ. So I'm just going to do a quick example that if I select that I have a fan here, then I can say it's DC. I can add some some details. There's a cable, there's a panel, there's a battery actually included with my fan. But then here it will start asking these specific fan questions. So what type of fan is it? Is it a table fan? Is it a pedestal fan? What is the diameter of the fan? What's the rated air delivery? And these are all questions, for example, that if I go all the way back up and I click a refrigeration unit, those questions are different. Here, now this question has changed to what type of refrigeration unit is it? What's the refrigerator volume? Is it a chest or an upright fridge, etc., etc. And then, of course, there's always the option to choose other for appliances types. It's of course possible that you're also selling irons or hair clippers or agricultural machines or milling machines. And in that case, we don't have specific questions regarding those appliances, but we really want to make sure that we capture the sales of them. And so we kind of get a sense of what those sales are, and we monitor, and then potentially in the future we may introduce more of the categories. Now, this is already quite some work. Please know that you can take a break. So you can save and exit, and you can then come back at a later stage to continue. Anytime you switch between pages, so if you go to a previous, if you go back to a previous page, or if you go to next page, the question, the answers are saved as well. Again, make sure that you just be aware that you cannot fill in with 2 people at the same time. So you really have to log out, and then your colleague can only log in. For example, I think maybe one person will, if you're talking appliances company, one person will fill in information on fans, and the other person will fill in information on TV, something like this. Again, if you have to do this once. If you are returning, then a lot of this will be already filled out. It will be preloaded, and the whole exercise will be much shorter. You will only need to add, what has changed in the past 6 months at that point. But yeah, for a new company, it's a one-time investment. Okay, now on to the actual sales data reporting part, like the star, the main part of the data collection. In the beginning, we had this mandatory questions where we indicated the countries that we made sales in, any sales. So those are appearing here, categorized per region, with a separation between B2B and B2C. So I indicated I have B2B sales in Sub-Saharan Africa, and I indicated B2B for both products. So they both appear here as B2B and B2B. Here you will have to fill in the sales for each category, for each product category, and for each company, for each country, without any punctuation. It kind of goes without saying, because how can you sell half a product, but without any punctuation. Please note that we are requesting you to report for the sales of the period of July to December 2019. So I see I didn't update the screenshot. This should be a different round. So we do this every 6 months. Now for Paygo products, it's important that you report only the newly added customer in this reporting period. So that's really to ensure that we really see incrementally how many products have been sold. I mean, the same goes for the cash products, of course. It has to be sold in this period. But I'm specifically pointing out that for Paygo products, we really only want to have new customers, because of course, companies have a customer portfolio of paying customers, but we're not asking for the size of your portfolio as a whole. We only need to know newly added customers. Now, when you're on this page and you filled in your sales for the past half year, for the past 6 months, which will be the 2019 H2, scrolling down, there is still the option, and it's non-mandatory, to fill in previous sales, or historical sales, how we call them. For this last question, also because it's otherwise going to be way too much work, we do not distinguish per country. It will just be on a product level. So it will just be the sum of all the products that have been sold by you. We especially would love to know this on the appliance side. So we really welcome the companies to fill in historical sales to kind of give us a bit more of a historical overview of the market. If you've reported any sales in a previous round, when you come back, you see them filled in. So those would be preloaded. Again, you will only have to do this once, and then every new round, the newly added round is automatically populated here. All right, then the final, most important step is to submit your data. We will give you a deadline for the finalization of the questionnaire, and I will be sure to remind you quite often. As long as you haven't submitted yet, I will be sending you email reminders to please do so. Now, your questionnaire won't be considered, and it basically won't count if you haven't clicked this green finalize and submit questionnaire button. You will still need to make sure that you can make a checkbox saying I have checked and updated if necessary. any pre-filled product specifications. Once submitted, you will not be able to edit your answers anymore. If you discover a huge mistake, you can always contact me, of course. But in essence, once it's submitted and it's finalized. If you push submit and some mandatory questions are still missing, you will actually get a message that you need to fill those out first. So you will not be able to submit unless you've filled out all the mandatory questions. All right. That basically brings us to the end of the demo. We can open the floor for questions. The slides again will be available as a reference in the in the handout section. It's already there. It will be sent around as well. And I think any questions that come up during the process, you can always now at this point ask to either me or Leo or Salman. In the meantime, Leo or Salman, is there anything that I've missed, that I've forgotten to mention?
No, I think that covered everything. And there is so much information there. I know, we do our best here. So just encourage everyone to note that there will be both, there's some materials you send after this to everyone. Maybe we could just reinforce that, and just what you said, that everyone should ask us if they do have any questions, and encourage everyone just to get started on this as soon as possible, because you'll typically find that once you get in there, it is quite straightforward. We have to take you through all the steps, and it may sound complicated, but everything does when you're taking it through step by step. It should be quite an intuitive process going through that. But as we say, it's best if you can just open it up in those first few days at least, and get started, so that if you do have any questions, it doesn't delay you, when it gets close to finishing. That's just the typical problem that we often run into.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So
and just one point to add. That's all right. Just one point to add. This session, of course, today's session, Evelyn covered a lot, as Leo had also said. But this session is also recorded. So when you guys, like after the today's webinar, later on, the recording of the session will also be shared. So whatever Evelyn had gone through, you can refer back to it again. So that will help definitely the first time when you're doing it. That's all I wanted to add.
Exactly. That's wonderful. Yeah, I think then just to wrap up, because I don't see any questions appearing in the question box, and I don't see any hands raised so far. So yeah, as Leo and someone indicated, recordings will be shared, the handouts will be shared. We are always at your disposal if you have any questions, and I will be sending you emails with login information and prompting you when the data and when the questionnaire will be open, which will be upcoming Monday. So you can expect an email from me in your inbox by then. Let me see. I see one question coming in, a confirmation regarding appliances. So hold on. Let me quickly see if I can either. Oh, so this is from Ted Mugiza from Total, who's asking, if a solar home system kit includes a TV, how should the TV be reported? Let me quickly, yeah. So basically, in the kit, you do mention that you have, you can always say and indicate that you have a TV. You can write that in a description, but you should report the TV separately. in the appliances section. So basically, you say that you sell both a lighting system and appliance, and you will be required to fill in details for both. Right, Leo?
That's great. Thanks, Evelyn. Yes, and so maybe just to break it down. So the lighting section of the questionnaire the lighting section only record, we call it the lighting section, right? Because it's some form of solar power kit with a light. It only records the details of the solar kits sold, other than having columns that are just asking you, does this include a TV, etc., and many other small things in the bundle? And it also asks, is it capable of powering a set of appliances? But those answers are not used to record the appliances, if that makes sense. They're just used to understand the nature of the solar kit. This appliance section is the only section which actually records volumes of appliances sold. So yes, it really is critical that when you're selling any appliance bundled in to a lighting kit, then you do complete the appliances section separately for all of those televisions that are included, for example, in there. The same would apply for refrigeration units, which is not very common. Whereas if, for example, there are a couple of companies who are selling solar irrigation kits so they're selling a solar water pump with a solar kit. And if there are no lights, then they only report in the appliance section. So there are two separate ways of recording: appliances in one area, solar kits in the other, and you will just indicate which of your solar kits sells a TV in the lighting section. You will then report sales of those TVs in the appliances section. I believe, Ted, that that is, again, this sounds a separate process, but that is what we've had all the companies doing so far. So you know, all of the M-Copas, D-Lights, Green Lights, B-Box, Mobistar, everyone who are selling solar kits with TVs have been following this procedure so far, and we haven't had any complaints yet. So it seems like it should be quite straightforward. I hope that helps you. And of course, always ask us if there is any issue. But thank you so much for asking that. That's a really good question. And I hope I've clarified it.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. That was extremely helpful. So yeah, so I think that just kind of like reiterated it back in the question box. So yes, indeed, you would declare the lighting kit with an indication of TV, and then separately declare the details of the TV. Yes. Yeah, I think one final chance for people to type a question if there are any questions. And of course, if you think of any questions later on, you can always email us. I think with that, I would like to thank you for for being part and of this webinar, but also for your interest in being part of data collection. We very much look forward to your participation. And Leo and Salman, thank you so much for joining me again and sharing insights with our new companies and new participants.
Thank you, Evelyn, and thank you everyone who's joining in.
Likewise, thank you. Appreciate all of the efforts, and look forward to working with you going forward. Good days, good nights, good morning. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.